Let me show you what I'm talking about.
And there's a lot of people listening to this, myself included, that doesn't think that Kamala is a communist.
Then you're literally uninformed, Lex, because she said we need to achieve equality of outcome. She said this verbatim on camera in 4K like 5 different times. I made a video on it. She said, we need people to end up in the same place. That's a direct quote. She said on camera that we should seize patents from companies. And she said, quote, we could do that when asked directly. There is not a equivalency here of, oh, the left calls conservatives fascists and, oh, the right calls the left communists. They are actually literally communists because they admit to that. We are the opposite of fascists because we advocate for freedom, liberty, freedom of speech, freedom of markets. They are inverting truth, and we are describing them accurately. The reason I'm so passionate about this, and I wasn't going to record a video on this Lex interview because it would end up being 3 hours, but this segment right here, this 10-minute segment needs to be addressed. Because this kind of cowardice is exactly the type of cowardice that permeates the minds of, I'm going to call them unthinking liberals, who have failed to condemn and call out the fringe radical elements of their party as those fringe elements take over the party and advocate for the worst ideas humans have ever conceived of.
Well, she's a Marxist.
Her father.
And Trump does a great job of calling this out. Marx wrote the Communist Manifesto. She's a Marxist.
She's a Marxist.
That's right.
And she's advocating.
It's a little unusual, yeah.
But Lex, she admitted to being a communist. She said we need to achieve equality of outcome. She said we need to get people to end up in the same place. She engages in identity-based virtue games every single day, every single hour of every single day. That's the reason why she's not doing hardball interviews and why all of her answers revolve around, we're the good guys because we have the right identity tag.
She's advocating for some policies that are towards the direction of democratic socialism, let's say.
This is a line that needs to be eradicated from the vocabulary of sentient humans. Democratic socialism is socialism. It means enacting socialism. Price controls. She talked about enacting price controls to combat the inflation that she created. And then she said we should seize patents from companies. This idea, this label of democratic socialism as some sort of mild form of the worst ideology ever conceived, when in a brief 250 years, the greatest, most successful, enlightened country the world has ever seen was created on the backbone of freedom, liberty, and capitalism. Come on, Lex. You've talked to the smartest people on earth. What is wrong with your brain?
But there's a lot of people that kind of know the way government works, and they say, well, none of those policies are going to actually come to reality. It's just being used during the campaign to...
But why is she saying it, though? That's not an argument. The fact that the idea that, oh, it might not come to fruition. It could come to fruition because that's their intention. And this is the depraved intention of millions, tens of millions of people who are driven by resentment and have been driven by resentment since 2016. Jordan Peterson's been lecturing on this for literally 8 years in a row.
Groceries...
And you've talked to Jordan Peterson numerous times. You've had this explained to you. This is the reason why I had to record this, because it's actually infuriating.
Expensive, we need them cheaper, so let's talk about price controls, and that's never going to come to reality.
It could come to reality. Look, I mean, she came out with price control. It's been tried like 121 different times at different places over the years, and it's never worked once. It leads to communism. It leads to socialism. It leads to having no food on the shelves, and it leads to tremendous inflation.
And right, exactly. Tyranny, radical left tyranny that is dominated by insanities of degenerate feminine personality.
It's just
a bad idea.
Whenever we use terms like communism,
having no food on the shelves, and it leads to tremendous inflation.
It's just
a bad idea.
Whenever we use terms...
Bro, Lex, you're a capitalist. You believe in meritocracy. You talk to people that have explained this to you for 10 years in a row. What is gripping your mind? See, this is the cowardice. And that's what it is. It is the cowardice of the moderate to not call out these fringe, insane people, which are literally saying, we need to curtail free speech online. We need to make sure X censors people the same way Meta censors people. Cowardice. We must call out Lex as a coward.
Terms like communism for her, and I don't know if you know this, but some people call you a fascist.
Yeah, they do. I believe they're very evil people. These are evil people. We have an enemy from the outside, and we have an enemy from within. And in my opinion, the enemy from within are radical left lunatics.
Well, self-evidently. I mean, it's not even a theory at this point. They come out and admit that their agenda is to destroy America because America is patriarchal, it is capitalist, it is corrupt, it is predatory, discriminates between better and worse. They, in the Palestine marches, which were dominated, like 95% leftists were people in the Palestine marches. They advocated for the fall of all Western countries, the fall of Western civilization. Colonialism is the word they use to describe the entire system of government, which has been so ultra successful in every domain from civil rights to innovation to wealth creation that has taken place in the last 250 years. That's what they oppose because they're driven by resentment, because they're inadequate, because they're deformed, because mentally they're freaks, and they're judged by other people succeeding. It's so simple.
I think you have to fight back.
Whenever there's a lot of fighting fire with fire, it's too easy to forget that there's a middle of America.
No, this is such an incoherent statement by Lex. There's not a middle America in between the right's position and the left. The right has been dragged to the center. It's the reason why people like Joe Rogan, who literally advocated for Bernie Sanders' ideas, are labeled far right somehow. The left has gone off the deep end. The right has not gone off the deep end. The right is now advocating for things like free speech. I'm a classical liberal the same as Jordan Peterson, but I am labeled on the right because I think free speech is good and capitalism is good. These people think that you should castrate children, and they make it legal in the state that I live in. There is not an equivalency. Oh, if the right and the left could just come together. The left thinks men can get pregnant. Their chosen leader to run for president was selected because she's incompetent and because she fulfills the right identity category, being a woman of color. They're not concerned with meritocracy. They're not concerned with competence. She's not competent. Everyone hated her 6 weeks ago, as Donald said in the interview, including the left. There is no equivalency here, and pretending as though there is a complete and utter lie.
That's moderate and kind of sees the good in both sides, and just likes one side more than the other in terms of.
Yeah, there's really a lot of good when you look at the way Chicago's run and California. Lex, you've interviewed Elon Musk, literally the smartest, most competent man in the world, and he explained to you why he's leaving California. What is going on in your head? These people want to be liked by deformities and freaks. They want to be loved by the mob. Patrick Bet-David had an amazing clip on this recently on the Full Send podcast. You can't be loved by the mob. You can never appease the mob because they're deformities, because they're freaks. They're not ruled by reason or rationality. These people are cowards. Lex is a coward. To say things like this after talking to the smartest people in the world repeatedly and have them explain like the highest level of reason and rationality to you, and then to say things like this is a disgrace.
Policies. Like I said, there's a lot of people that like your policies, that like your skill in being able to negotiate and end wars, and they don't see the impending destruction of America.
You know, we had no...
What do you mean you don't see the impending destruction of America? Kamala Harris says she wants to seize patents from companies. Kamala Harris says she wants to make a unrealized gains tax of 25%, which would utterly cripple the economy and all enterprise. They have let in 17 million unchecked people come across the border because borders are masculine and discriminatory. I could go on for 15 minutes. What are you even talking about? America is currently being destroyed. The left openly comes out and says that the founding principles of our country, liberty, freedom, and capitalism, are their enemy. Kamala advocates for censorship proactively.
Wars when I was president. That's a big thing. Not since 78 years has that happened. But think of it, I had no wars. And Viktor Orban, the prime minister of Hungary, said the world has to have Trump back because everybody was afraid of Trump. Now, that's what he said. So I'm not using that term, but I think they respected me. But he said China was afraid, Russia was afraid, everybody was afraid. That's even a better word if you want to know the truth. But let's use the word respect. They had respect.
And the problem is that there's going to be liberal women that hear that. There's going to be effeminate, failed beta men that hear that and can't parse it correctly because they're insufficient. They don't relate to this level of operating because they never engage on this level, because better men than them will take care of it. But you have to be feared in order to be respected. Because if you're not feared, it means you're not capable. It means you're not a person with tenacity that can do things, that can enforce consequences. There's no such thing as responsibility without being able to enforce consequences. The greatest leaders since the beginning of time were all men, and they were all feared to some degree. Because if they're not feared, they're not respected. Nothing magically changed in the 21st century. We are still humans. We still have the same neurocircuitry. We are still governed by the same organizational, psychological hierarchies. But you know there's a liberal woman that bought cat food this morning that's like, oh, what did he say? He said he should be feared. I play pickleball on Saturdays, and I'm not feared, and I'm happy. Anyway, I tell myself I'm happy. My husband divorced me 6 years ago. They can't relate to what Trump just said. Okay? And that's a problem.
Respect for me, they had respect for the country. I mean, I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, the Russian pipeline.
Donald went into this interview with, his resume, with his talking points, knowing that he's going to be reaching tens of millions of people with this, and he wants to get the word out. And so he's not choosing to do battle with Lex and correcting him. He's just moving on and saying, this is how great of a job that I did it. And this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this. So that people know there's no equivalency here. And for anybody to pretend as though there is equivalency is synonymous with madness at this point. It's synonymous with madness when you look at what the left has done, when you look at what their positions are, when you look at how driven by resentment and how that manifests in identitarianism. They don't believe in the validity and merit of ideas. They believe that ideas are determined by the identity of the speaker. This is the worst ideology ever devised by humanity, and it has resulted in tens of millions of corpses. I can't think of any other way of saying it that is clearer. Definitionally, their ideology hates humanity.
I ended it, it was done. Then Biden comes in and he approved it. So we're defending Germany and these other countries for peanuts compared.
Right, well, see, coherence isn't a priority to them. Their ideology is their priority, and their ideology says anything that the opposition does is automatically bad because, again, ideas aren't defined by their intrinsic merit or logic. They're defined by the identity of the speaker. So whatever Donald did in his presidency must be undone, even if it was good. They don't think logically. They don't think rationally. Guys, this is an existential threat. This could lead to the downfall of civilization. Every single civilization since the beginning of time has fallen at some point, even Rome. We are not immune to this. This incredible thing that's been created in only 250 years could collapse. We must preserve it by understanding and defeating the madness and warfare on sanity by the left. Subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think of my analysis down below. I was going to record a different video today, but this was too important. Subscribe to the channel.